Hello, good people. Welcome back wherever you are. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on your location and when you're viewing this video. In my first video in this series, I played an excerpt from Dr. Mike talking about the importance of looking at the whole patient and not just the specific complaint that they have on any particular day. What I will call symptom checking. And I want to talk about my experience with a couple of experiences actually with traditional quote unquote healthcare networks. Specifically, several years ago, I had some pain in my leg and hip that prevented me from walking for more than 20 feet without stopping. Developed great pain. And over the course of 4 years that I suffered with that, I was bounced usually to orthopedics with some work with physical terrorists or physical therapists, I guess, depending on your viewpoint. And finally, I had what's called a hip arthroscopy, and at the risk of being too graphic, with a hip arthroscopy, you're put on the operating table, put under general anesthesia, and then they put your leg into a traction device and actually pull your leg until the ball of the hip pulls out of the socket. And then they go in with instruments and they clean things up. In my case, they were doing what they called a reshaping. So the ball part of the femur, they went in with a grinder and actually ground away bone and stuff to reshape it and then put it back in. So the first one was unsuccessful. And then I had a second one, believe it or not, also unsuccessful. And then was sent to a spine surgeon who did operate on my back, the fourth and fifth lumbar vertebrae. Did some work in there. I think it was called a laminectomy or something like that. Also provided no help. And just incidentally, in October of 2016, I was hospitalized for a case of gastroenteritis. And as part of that hospitalization, they did a CT scan of my abdomen. Following that, I met with my primary care physician, and I asked of him about something that I had found in that report from the CT scan, and I'm going to show you that report now. So here's the report, and you'll notice the part that I've got highlighted under item 3. It says occlusion of the left common iliac artery with reconstitution of the internal and external branches. So basically what happens, the aorta comes down, and then somewhere around your navel it splits off and becomes the iliac arteries, the left and right iliac arteries. And then they split off into an internal and an external branch. So you have the internal and external iliac arteries, then becomes the femoral arteries and continues on down the leg. So again, referring to this occlusion of the left common iliac artery. So that's the very top of the iliac artery, right where it separates off from the aorta. And I asked my primary care physician, just coincidentally, if he thought that occlusion of the iliac artery might be causing my leg pain. And the reason I asked him that was because I had researched that, and it talked about a symptom called claudication of leg pain and hip pain, and it described almost exactly what I was experiencing. And his response was no, because of that verbiage in there of the reconstitution, that it looked like the blood flow was going okay. I eventually talked him into giving me a referral to a vascular surgeon for consultation, and when I went there, they did an ultrasound test, blood pressure test all up and down the leg and foot, and then I met with her, and the first thing she said or asked was, why haven't you had a vascular workup previously? She said, you have classic claudication. You have a blocked artery blocking the blood flow to your leg. She then performed it was in the hospital then, she did a procedure, angioplasty, where she went up into the iliac artery, cleaned it out, and then installed 3 stents in that artery. And a few days later, I had an appointment with my psychiatrist, and I had some time to kill before the appointment, so I just went to the mall, and I thought, I'm going to see how far I can walk. And I wasn't expecting a whole lot, but I got into the mall, and I started walking and had no pain, and kept walking and had no pain, and kept walking and kept walking and kept walking. I walked the entire inside of the mall, and I broke down in tears. I was crying. I was so happy, and actually had people, come up to me and ask me if I was okay. And I explained that it was tears of joy. So all of those surgeries that I had gone through, because they had not done a thorough evaluation to determine what was wrong before just sending me off for surgeries. So I thought I would share that with you because I remember that to this day, and my primary care physician never really even talked about it afterwards. And I still use that as an example of when you don't get a thorough evaluation, what can happen. Think of what I went through with all those surgeries. And living for 4 years on narcotics, I started out on Vicodin and ended up on oxycodone and OxyContin, and then eventually on fentanyl patches with oxycodone for breakthrough pain. So think of all of that could have been avoided had they simply done a thorough exam from the outset. I wonder how many people have similar experiences. In my next video, I am going to talk about another healthcare network entirely, and how they do things to help avoid what I've just described to you. And that's Mayo Clinic. That video will be a little bit longer, and at the end of it, I am going to ask you to participate in a very simple one-question survey. And I hope you will watch all 3 of these videos and then get to that survey and provide me your feedback. So, thanks for tuning in. I appreciate your time. I'm hopeful that some of this will be helpful to some of you out there. And until I talk with you again, stay healthy, stay happy. Thanks for joining me. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.